Our guest today is Ann McDonald, and after hustling with little profit, Ann unlocked the secret. Success isn't just about strategy, it's about identity. Now an eight-figure entrepreneur, she helps businesses scale to 5 and 7 figures.
Always, but I want to say a lot of the times you've emphasized build to sell, even if you never intend to sell. Can you unpack for our listeners this a little bit deeper on how it is a game changer for entrepreneurs, common branding mistakes and solutions? Can you help unpack this a little bit for our listeners?
Your message equals your $1 million anthem. You don't have a sales problem, you have a message problem. If your words don't captivate, they don't convert. I have helped Grammy-winning artists craft unforgettable songs, and now we help entrepreneurs just like you craft your business messaging that actually sells.
You don't need more hustle, you need the right strategy. I help scale multi-million-dollar companies, and we can show you exactly how to systemize, scale, and dominate the market without drowning in the grind. Welcome to the Conquer Club podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Conquer Club podcast. Do you want to crack the code to true success? On the Conquer Club podcast today, we bring you a high-impact entrepreneur who has conquered the impossible. Our guest today is Ann McDonald, and after hustling with little profit, Ann unlocked the secret. Success isn't just about strategy, it's about identity. Now an eight-figure entrepreneur, she helps businesses scale to 5 and 7 figures annually with the Ethos Method rooted in Psalm 1:3. So they can build lifestyle-led brands without sacrificing family or peace. Her brands have worked with ESPN, the Navy SEALs, Elle Decor, and more. If you are ready to ditch the grind and step into grace, Ann isn't just serving a McDonald's Happy Meal today. She's giving you the whole McDonald blueprint to build a business that makes you both happy and wealthy. Welcome, Ann McDonald, to the podcast.
Let's go, Ann.
Thank you.
How do we know about Ann? Ann and her husband, Patrick, were actually our first online consultants who, as we would say, Kev, I mean, it has absolutely impacted our lives in more ways than we could put words to. Right, babe?
Legacy changing. I'm going
Yeah.
to say legacy changing.
Mm-hmm. We always giggle because when we started 3 years ago with you at the time of this podcast, we didn't just we said, what did we just do? Is this a franchise or what was it? But the truth is, and it opened our eyes, not just a franchise, it literally opened our eyes, and we were able to see what was possible more than what we were doing. Because Kevin, as we jokingly say, but actually it's the truth, Kevin felt stuck like Anita in a fajita is what we say, or one of our mentors, Myron, says, stuck like Chuck in a pickup truck. You're doing the things, Anita needs this, she needs that, she needs something else, but God beautifully just orchestrated us to meet you and Patrick and launch our first online business, which Kevin, by the way, generated income almost immediately within the first couple of months.
Yeah.
And so it started taking the mud out of our mindset that we thought we were good, right? We knew the kingdom and all of the business, and you get to a certain age and you think you're good. And in actuality, we were just conforming to the patterns of the world. And we needed to hear a new voice, and it just happened to be yours and Patrick. So tell us, Ann, a little bit about you and your mindset before you started the current business you have, and how Psalm 1:3 is an integral part of your business and branding.
Come on. Well, thank you, Tanya and Kevin. It's a true honor to be here. So, have you ever been in that place where, like you mentioned earlier, you're stuck? Maybe you're stuck in a season of transition. You've come off a big success, or you just feel like you're going around and around and around the same mountain. Do you know what I'm talking about? And for me, I had a service based business, maybe like many of your listeners. I had a service based business, but I was tuckered out. I was tired. And I was in that place where we had the revenue numbers, but I was like, I don't know how we're going to actually make this thing grow without just giving more of me. So in that place, well, have you ever like looked at something and thought, I don't know how to get out of this? Like it's like you're on a Ferris wheel. You're like, I want to get off. I want to go on the next ride. I want to step into that season of transition and do the next thing, but I didn't know how. And I had a mentor. He was actually in the music business, which is interesting, right? Sing a new song. And he talked to me about going online and developing that business model online. So instead of 1-to-1, pardon me, I could go 1-to-many. And that was this series of kind of ups and downs and ups and downs. And that's really where the Ethos Method came. I had to come to Jesus moments. And he's like, go into the word. Let me show you how it's done in here. And that's really how it started for me. I was going around and around and around.
So good, Ann.
Yeah,
it is. And I think a lot of the listeners can certainly relate to what you just shared with us. So, and we yes, yeah, that'd be yes. So, and we know that you have worked with many high level entrepreneurs who struggle to get traction online and maybe even offline. What do you think is the biggest misconception about building a personal brand that keeps people stuck? And as Ton likes to say, stuck like Anita in a fajita. I need to figure it out. I need to know all the steps. Anita. What do you think is the biggest misconception that you can help them with their branding?
So I love this question, Kevin. Have you ever heard the phrase success leaves clues?
Tony Robbins, I think.
Right. So, but here's the kicker. Success from a previous season can sometimes leave the wrong clues because you want to step into a new level of success, and the things that you need to do in the next season, the next incarnation, can often be stumbled over or tripped over by what made us successful in the past season. So I thought I knew it. Have you ever been in a place where you're like, oh, I got that. I know how to do this because I had a successful service-based business. I was like, oh, this is no problem. Meanwhile, 5 years of like trying to start that motor, which is why I'm so passionate about helping other people get out of that. It's the biggest issue I have seen is you've got success. You've done well in one area of your life. Maybe you've even come off a big success. Maybe you've sold a business. Maybe you retired and you cashed out. And then all of a sudden you have all these things to protect.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have anything to lose when you're coming out of college and you're, in that broke phase. But kind of in that next season, you're like, I don't know if I want to do this. Do I want to risk it? And so the biggest thing that we deal with is the identity mindset of the next incarnation of the person. So it's really cool.
We always say we're in the Fitty Club. That's what we're in. We're in the Fitty Club. And it's interesting to see so many of our peers. We were just at a leadership retreat that we were asked to be a part of, and all of us are transitioning into a new incarnation, not reincarnation, an incarnation, like you said. And I know that for us too, it's one of those things like my design business when I met you was doing amazing, but I was trading all my money for all my time. I mean, not all my money. I actually was doing quite well, kept lifting my prices so that they wouldn't, hire me. I just, so that I would have more time. But the truth is they kept wanting you, and you taught us even that
Right.
in our value. And with that, Anne, a phrase you like to say is permission granted.
Oh, I love
So many people wait for validation. Hello, before they even step up into the next thing. What is your advice for somebody who maybe is listening right now and they feel paralyzed by fear or
that.
imposter syndrome, or they're in that next phase like we were,
Yeah. Mhm.
and thinking, I don't know if I could do this. What
Mm.
what what could help them do the next step?
Yeah, I love that's a great question. So, when we're in that season, especially coming off a win, right? If you've come off a win, just write win in the chat. All right. Maybe you won the club golf tournament. Maybe you sold the business. Maybe you have retired early. And that was actually the situation that Patrick and I were in. We'd had a big blessing and we were able to kind of step back. And I was like, but I'm not done yet, right? You've got more to do. And
Yes.
so there are two lessons that I use to help people, two different stories. Do you know the story of, think of the transition from the horse to the car, right? The horse and buggy to the car.
Right.
And when we come off a big success, how many of us are like, I got it. I know how this horse works, right? I
Mhm.
got the top breeding. My horse has won some races, right? My horse has a great legacy. We've got great DNA. But we don't actually need a faster horse for the next season. We need the automobile or the rocket or right?
Yep.
So it's that mindset of putting us into, wait a minute.
Mm.
Everything that I think I know, I actually need to lay down.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there was somebody I learned from. He was a friend, and he had success after success after success with these new companies. He would build a software company and sell it, and then he'd start all over again. And I'm like, how is he doing that? Why isn't he just sitting back on his laurels and, enjoying? And one of the lessons I observed from him, and I know you guys have a lot of, athletes, you got golfers, you got professional athletes in your vortex. You travel in like successful circles. And so one of the things I learned from him, I was a swimmer. So I would get in the pool and I swum my whole life and I knew how to swim. And I noticed that this person, he'd never swum a day in his life, but he was always willing to put himself into other pursuits where he was the novice.
Come
And he had
on.
no shame over it. And I was like, there's a principle here, right? There's this principle here where if you and I will learn how to be the novice in one area, maybe it's in athleticism or it's in a speaking or something else, what happens is we begin to be okay with always kind of that reincarnation, that new incarnation, as you were saying, Tanya. And I just think that, that's what successful people do. And it's
Mm.
okay if we need that boost, right? We need that boost, that encouragement. And the other thing is I noticed he always had a coach. I was like, he's always had a coach, even at the levels that he was at. So I took lessons from people who were, stratospherically above me. And I was like, what's the principle? and
Right.
how
Yeah.
can we apply that? So
Mhm.
Mm.
that's what I love doing, that, helping
That's
people
so,
succeed.
so, so good. You, I love when you encourage and say they always had a coach. Well, you will bring Tiger Woods into this equation. Tiger Woods, arguably the greatest golfer ever, has a coach. Michael Jordan had a coach. One of the most amazing stories that I did hear is that when the Chicago Bulls were making that run with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, every practice, Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan would start the practice with 10 feet apart chest passes. The same thing we learn when we're 5 and 6 years old, chest passes, then bounce passes. They never started a practice without Fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. So we never can outgrow a coach. So that's great. So, Ann, you have always, not always, but I'm going to say a lot of the times you've emphasized build to sell, even
Yes.
if you never intend to sell. Can you unpack for our listeners this a little bit deeper on how it is a game changer for entrepreneurs, common branding mistakes and solutions? Can you help unpack this a little bit for our listeners?
Absolutely. So ask me how I know you should build to sell because I've done it the wrong way.
How we get appointed to teach others and anointed.
So if you've ever tried to do something and done it the wrong way, what is it? It's not, failure. One of my favorite sayings is failure isn't fatal, right? It's, we stay in the game. And so I was in this process, Kevin, of building out one of my first brands online. And I was like, I got it. I can do this myself. I got skills. I know how to do this. And what happened was I simply took what I was doing in my service-based business and I translated that skill set online. And one of my mentors at the time, who had done very well, he was like, Ann, why are you making the same decisions and doing the same tasks repetitively over and over and over again? And I was like, well, because I can.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that saying, just because you can doesn't mean you should?
Yes.
Right. And so I found myself kind of defaulting into that comfort space where I didn't actually want to risk hiring somebody, maybe not getting it right. So I was using my decision making to stay small and justify staying small.
Mm.
And that's when Ryan was like, nope, we're not going to do this. So I learned to take every decision that we're making in our businesses, even at the startup phase. So I have a little holiday decor brand. It does less than $1 million right now, but it's a super fun brand. And so we're making these decisions right now. Do something like you come up with your emails, you come up with your socials, and then you really ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing making my company easier to sell or harder to sell? And so one of the most common branding mistakes, building mistakes that we make is we do things simply because we can. And so that's, I think, and I love that question because it really pushes us into mindset growth. Identity growth.
Thank you for unpacking that. That is some sound advice for sure.
It's so good because what's the saying that confusion causes people not to actually, confusion makes you want to run away, but clarity and systems in place. I know Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time, and they're just, SOPs are so important, and you don't need a bunch of codes and all the things. It's like keeping that simple to go into somebody else's hands, even if you never plan to sell it.
Correct.
It works for you as well.
Yes.
What do you think in going along those lines still? And what do you think are the maybe 2 to 3 brand killers that high achieving entrepreneurs don't even realize is holding them back? I know I can say one, but what's that for us?
I actually would love to hear what you have to say. I think one of the things that I see the most is a prior season of success. We work with a lot of people in our consulting space that, like I said, have kind of similar backgrounds. They transitioned out early, blessed, but they know they're not done.
Yeah.
But it's really letting go of what worked in a prior season to learn the new way to think.
Yeah.
And if we can hub it back to our identity, that's why I love the Ethos Method, this tree planted by streams of living water. The tree doesn't actually move. It just bears its fruit in season, right? And so season to season, we get new fruit. We get new, more, better. And so success from a prior season is one of the biggest things I see because we think we know. We think we know how to do it. We think we know because we've got the award or whatever. And so that's one of the top ones. I think the second one is thinking that people don't actually need a personal brand.
Hmm.
Uh, I like to think of a personal brand as the spine. So if you think of your spine, um, the flesh on all of us, how we look, our height, all of this is different, but your personal brand is the thing that goes with you, whether you're doing, holiday decor or consulting, whether you're doing your podcast or you're hosting one of your, incredible events. You're the same person. And, we see this development so powerfully, whether you love them or hate them, doesn't matter to me, whether it's in the Elon Musk or the leader, the president or whoever, they have a personal brand.
That's right.
They
And
do. That's
right, it's not about dancing on TikTok. It's really that identity that they hub from. And so as they go into new seasons, they're able to adapt really successfully. And that's one of the things I'm so passionate about, because if you and I can get a hold of that, the success, it comes very swiftly, because it's just like, oh, it's who I am.
Yes. Oh, that is that. Well, both of the things you said is what I was going to say. You said thinking in both of those. They
Yeah.
think and they're thinking that, and it's the mind. It's the mind. I know Kathy Lee Gifford says if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. And so people in our vortex, you've come out of maybe a successful season, or maybe I would say maybe you've climbed to the top of the ladder and you don't like the view. You're a you're a high level executive and you've climbed to the top of that ladder and you're 50 and you're like, what? This isn't the view I thought at all. And it's never too late to be what you might have been. And so you step into places and spaces that are really uncomfortable because you've never done it. But it's that what everything you've said is like it's so the mindset, because I always say you've become the guru in what grew you. And that's when you know that you're in the right place if you're so uncomfortable. I remember the first time, Ann, you said, get online and put your face on there. And I was mortified. I thought, oh my gosh, I am 50, like almost or something close to 50 at that point. And I was thinking, this is ridiculous. But the truth was, I was thinking about me. I wasn't even thinking about who I could serve, who's praying for everything that I've learned, and
Right.
you all. So when you came into our vortex, we're thinking, we don't want to do this in the next half of our lives. We want to do something different and more purpose driven, which is what I think the root of who you and Patrick emulate. And that's what brought us into your vortex and people into our own. And it's amazing. It is a mindset shift that the temperature has to change. And you were a big part of that for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Okay, so Miss Ann, your masterclass, Blueprint Your Personal Brand,
Yes.
promises to help entrepreneurs thrive.
Yes.
What's one immediate, actionable step our audience can take today to reposition their brand for success? What do you have for us?
Oh, well, the first thing is to believe that you actually have one.
Hey, man.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Every single person actually has a personal brand, whether you're stewarding it or not.
Mm,
It's what the ether, if you will, the atmosphere causes people to think and be aware of. And it's this real estate hovering out there. I like to say in the ethos, in the ether, and it's got your name on it. It has one of our
mm.
methods is also the DNA method. And so it's got your DNA on it. How about we go ahead and get a hold of that real estate? Because you don't have to pay for it. You just have to steward that territory. So that's the first thing, is to actually choose to believe, oh,
Yes.
wait a minute. That was free with purchase, right? That came when I was born. So let's
Yeah.
go ahead and steward that. Yeah.
Mm.
Do you think, Anne, that the entrepreneurs that create content but still struggle to attract the right audience, what do you think is the number one mistake that they're making when it comes to that visibility? And I can say in the beginning when I did it, it felt it felt wrong. I felt like, oh, what am I doing? But that was the mindset shift. So what do you think? But now I'm just like, this is who I am. This is what I do. I love people, and I know that you are very comfortable as well. What do you think is the number one mistake that people do when it comes to that?
Well, have you ever been in a place where you think, oh, I want to share something, and the camera goes on and you're like a deer in the headlights? You're like, oh, ruh-roh, right? I don't like my outfit, don't like my hair, don't like my butt. And you just go down this vortex of, I don't know, it's like a Disneyland ride or something. You go down this vortex of doom. And you're like, I'm a smart person. How did I get down here? You know? And so I think the biggest mistake we make is thinking that the sharing is about us.
Yeah.
Right? When you and I go into a room and we turn on a light, the light illuminates the space for other people to know where to go and what to do. It helps them avoid pitfalls. Don't bump into the furniture because I've turned on the light. And when I think of sharing online and being in that place, we have to take the mindset of, I'm simply turning on the lights so that somebody else knows where to go and how to get there.
Oh my gosh.
Can I just say that one of my favorite quotes, and I actually created a song from it because I just loved it so much, Anne, is a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. And so many times we can be in a dark warehouse and you take that, just like you struck the match and you're like, Tanya and Kevin, I'm going to light your candle. When we maybe can't light it, we're so caught up in that merry-go-round you talked about, or you said Ferris wheel, but I pictured this merry-go-round. You remember when you were little, you're holding on for dear life. Your legs are flying off, those old-fashioned ones, right? Your legs are flying off, and then you just got to let go. You may get some skinned knees, but it's okay. You get back up. And I think for you and what your branding and what your company does for the DNA inside of all of us that God already put in us is light the candle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good, Ton. Well, on that same topic with regards to branding, so we know branding isn't just about visuals. It's about messaging, it's about positioning. And what are the biggest messaging missteps that keep people from scaling? What have we learned about that?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. So can we just say that again? Branding is not about colors and visuals and all of that. I think if I could just sear that one thing into people who are saying, oh, I don't need a brand, I don't need a personal brand. It's understanding first and foremost who you are. There's this beautiful journey of discovering your identity in the new season, right? Remember I shared about the horse and buggy versus the car. So maybe we've been a winning horse race, right? Maybe we've been secretariat in the past season, but now it's time. Maybe you're going to be a Lamborghini or you're going to be a Bentley or something. And so in that space, we have to understand that it's an identity shift, right? When we grow and we mature, it's an identity shift to reach a larger audience. And so one of the things that we always encourage people to do is to take a look at the existing marketplace and think about the question, where am I positioned within that marketplace? Am I the Starbucks? Am I the local coffee shop? Who do I want to be in this next season, and how can I reach the most people? Does that answer your question, Kevin? I want to make sure I answer your question.
It does, because we all, well, I'll say it's easy to get hung up on the visuals of this and that with regards to branding, but it's much more than just the visualization of your branding. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know myself and many listeners will certainly get a lot out of that.
Yeah, I think if I could just say something on that, when people have had success, sometimes we can step into or move into a season of, I need to get more private, right? I need to get more private. I have more to protect.
Yes.
And I heard this analogy once. You've ever heard of insider information? Insider information, right? It's not a good thing, right? So in the markets, in the financial markets, if you use insider information, you like, that's it, you're toast, right?
La, la, la.
Right. Right. But when you are willing to develop your personal branding perspective, especially after a season of success, you're actually turning on the lights, giving light to other candles, so that people who are coming either, behind you or beside you into their next season, you're actually giving them insider information in a good way. You're saying, hey, this is the fast path. This is the fast track. And so our willingness as stewards to steward, not hiding into privacy, but stepping into stewarding that new territory, that's nobility, right? And that's why I'm so passionate about it. Right.
I think that, and to piggyback what you just said, I was having a conversation with a very successful gentleman recently, and he has done the same thing he's in his mid 50s, and he's taking a risk and it's a big risk into another company. And we had a great conversation. And the one thing that I was explaining to him, because this is what people don't understand in this world right here. Yeah. Who is a mentor that's already done this, that can collapse your time? I said to this person, let's say they had a McDonald's franchises. Let's just say that. And I said, what if you could call a person right now who's already opened 10 of those in their lifetime, or 5, or whatever the number is, and they can tell you in 6 months, you can have their 25 years of experience in the palm of your hands. How? And we don't even like to talk. I know he doesn't talk about what's the cost. He talks about, I said, what is the return on that, John, quote unquote? What's the return on that? Yeah. It's an immediate, you don't have to go through all those years that we are in our 50s to get through that. So somebody right now is praying for an Ann in their life who has all this experience, who can tell you how to do the next thing, how to do the lifestyle branding, like they've taught us. And it's been sometimes it's brutal, it's a little brutal and a little beautiful melted together, because anytime you grow, you can have a little tension. And I always say, inside the word intention is the word tension. That means you're growing. So for entrepreneurs who are overwhelmed with social media, content creation, and what do you think is the best advice for cutting through the noise without burning out?
Come on. I'll just say, it's building a personal brand. It's, when I think about the future, we have all these AI tools and all these things that we can leverage now. But the one thing we can't replicate is the DNA of your beautiful tree planted by streams of living water. And so, when I look out in the future, the biggest thing that calms our nervous system down is knowing that we are in a place of right identity and right standing. And the creation of your personal brand, it makes you align with who you really are and why you're here. And so in that, it can be beautiful, as you say. I love that saying, Tanya, right? Because it is beautiful, but it's like, oh, ouch, ouch. Maybe I'm just going to go shopping. Is that cool? I'm gonna go ski. I'll come back to that later.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, but keep really aligning yourself with that permission process to say, hey, why are we even here? So.
How did your faith play a role in this, Ann, in this whole process? Really, 2 questions that I know our listeners will be, it will benefit them, is what was it in your journey that pivoted you into this purpose, what you're serving right now, the people you're serving? And so what was that moment that you're thinking, I'm done with that season? And part B of that is, I don't remember, so I'll get back to you on that. But so let's go ahead and do the first part.
I love that. I love that. I literally have a moment when I was in my design studio, And I had a successful interior design practice. It was very successful, worked with clients literally from 6 continents. And I was like, what the what? And I stood up on a stool and I actually wrote. I had a big mirror that we used as, of course, a message board because it was a design studio. And I wrote on the mirror, what I really want is to equip, empower, and edify people to hear, well done, good and faithful. And that changed everything for me, because before that, it had been a sea of success, but with it was just stuff,
Yeah.
And that was the moment when literally, I mean, it was a seminal moment. I had somebody make a video of it. Like everything changed. Everything changed for me.
Which pulls out. I mean, that's profound. And I know somebody is listening right now who hears that and thinks, that's what I want to do. I can't keep doing what I've always done just because I know how. So I remembered when you were saying that, what the second part of that is, how has your faith played a role in your entrepreneur journey and where you are now for you and Patrick?
Well, it's the same question about building to sell. It really goes back to, God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's 3 generations. And so if I build a business and I don't build it in such a way that somebody else can take it on, I'm actually just building it to die. In the same way, if I don't steward my life in such a way where the breakthroughs that I get, somebody who comes after me can just stand on these shoulders and they don't have to relearn what was so expensive for me to learn, then I'm just building to die. And so it's that whole process of like, yeah. I mean, it's multiplication. It's eternal, right?
That's
eternal.
Well, that is powerful, powerful. So, Ann, we know you have built multiple brands, and if someone listening wants to future-proof their business, what's the first foundational step they need to take today? What would you advise them to do?
Well, get on my masterclass. I mean, we literally, one of the things that we have a free masterclass where we have taken the best of the best to give people, Patrick likes to say it this way. He says, give people an honest look, right? You know what freshman football is?
Yeah.
Freshman football is not designed to get everybody to come back sophomore year. Right? Freshman football is designed to give people an honest look at, hey, do they want to play football or not? And that's the principle, Kevin, that we designed our masterclass with, is blueprint your personal brand. And we spend, half a day together and we just see, hey, we're going to give this to you. Hey, let's see. Is this something you want to come back for? So we just tried to steward that as best we can.
Kind of like test driving a car before you would buy it as well. You get into it, you can feel the seat, the steering wheel, all the things. Is this a good fit for me? Can I see myself in this car? So I love that. That is fantastic.
Yes.
And here we are, 3 years later. Don and Kevin are still in this. So we are proof in the concept of that. We must have liked the game to stay in it, and so here we are. Well, Ann, there is so Kevin just said you said join the masterclass. What are some ways we can connect with you? And I mean, we're going to put this all down in the show notes, but where listeners can connect with you and dive deeper and go into your masterclass, what is all of that?
Awesome. So we have a really easy website. It's called simply7figures.com. It's just SIMPLY, the number 7, right? It's completion, figures.com and /brand. And that will take you to our free masterclass. We made that super easy for people. And because we want to give you a good solid look and help you determine what's best for your next season. Right.
And how many people want 7 figures? that are listening.
It's fun. It changes. Here's the thing, and I don't if it's okay if we talk a little bit about money, but I never thought of myself as someone who could actually earn. I was a mom, I was a wife, and always had a job, but I was like, it never occurred to me that God had put that multiplication and blessing and provision inside of me. And that's where Psalm 1:3 really, really helped. So we're a tree planted by streams of living water. We bear our fruit in season. The leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations. And it's like permission granted. Let's have some fun.
And the word prune. Those trees have to be pruned in order for fruit to grow. So the pruning is the old season that served its time, right? Served its purpose, served its time. And now the pruning that comes off in order for the new fruits to grow is exactly what you shared with us and shared with your client. So, and I know, Kev, you maybe have something else. I want to thank you for being on our podcast today. And Kev, what you got, babe?
So, Ann, thank you so much for being on the Conquer Club podcast today with Tanya and myself. If you have liked this episode, please like and subscribe and leave us a review. Tag us on social media with your biggest takeaway. Again, we'll see you next time on the Conquer Club podcast. Peace in.
Peace out.
Kevin.
And Tanya Stout. So how many of you are ready to conquer your business, your income, and your life? Hit subscribe and join the Conquer Club, and let's start winning together.
Peace in.
Peace out.
Kevin and Tanya Stout.